must say, the Mortal Kombat animated universe is developing quite nicely. Yes, hot on the heels of Scorpion's Revenge, which was excellent and had lots of character development, we now get Battle of the Realms, which has a lot of action. Oh, it's such good action. The fights here were really thrilling. I loved them. But I think for the next outing, I would love to meet in the middle with lots of character development and lots of action, because with both films, I did feel the other thing was missing. You know what I would really like? I would really like a Mortal Kombat animated series on HBO Max. I think that after these two movies, we're ready. I think there's an audience here that's been proven, and I would like that better than yet another animated movie. I say that because instead of Mortal Kombat retreading its iconic moments in movie and TV adaptations, like, okay, you know, the origin of Scorpion, okay, the initial Mortal Kombat tournament. I don't want to keep revisiting that, especially because I know there's so much more to Mortal Kombat. I'd love to have a series. It's like the movies, think about DC animation, and that's been very successful. But DC animation, I think they have a little bit more to adapt because, you know, this is Mortal Kombat is a series of games, whereas DC is decades of comics that are running on many different lines. So, you know, DC animates this graphic novel. But I think that the Batman the Animated Series is what made a lot of us animated fans in the first place. And at points, thanks to the style of animation, I kind of felt I was watching a Batman the Animated Series kind of but for Mortal Kombat, which was really cool. So I think that it's the cart before the horse, whichever way that goes. I think that before we have all these movies, and I don't know if there's enough Mortal Kombat story to keep having just movies, I'd love to see an animated series where we could go deeper into these stories, stay with them for longer, so we could have all the action and character development together, and maybe tell some stories that are totally new to everyone. I think that could be really cool, because one of the things I felt most watching Battle of the Realms, where there are just so many of the famous and iconic Mortal Kombat characters on display, I wanted to spend more time with each of them. And I have to say, I particularly liked all the female characters here. They were really cool. Scorpion's Revenge really only had Sonya Blade, who I even liked better here as well. I'll talk about her in a moment. But here we have a whole bunch of female characters, and they're each only used briefly, but they look fantastic and they come across really well. And there's a difference in their fighting style. The male fighters use a lot of brute strength, but the female fighters use a lot of finesse and strategy. And it's beautiful and cool to behold. I just thought it was really well imagined. Although when it comes to strength, I have to say, Sonya Blade's moves here are brutal. And I can see for the first time why she's a fan favorite. I've always felt she was one of the less exciting female characters. But here I was like, oh wow, she's awesome. I really liked her. This movie gives her the respect she deserves as an OG Mortal Kombat fighter. I liked her much more here than I did in Scorpion's Revenge. I was only let down by Melina, who's wearing her signature color, but otherwise didn't seem like herself at all. I was like, where are her teeth? In fact, I didn't even realize that was Melina. I saw Melina in the end credits, and I was like, oh, is there going to be an end credit scene with Melina? And there wasn't. So I Googled it, and I was like, oh, that was supposed to be her in the purple? What? So I would love, though, to spend more time with these women. And even, yes, you know, I said I don't want to hear a lot of origin stories. Again, I want to go forward, but I would like to see their origin. I will allow a Mortal Kombat animated series where we spend time with, we get to know, we have an origin story for each character. That would be cool. I also, you know what else I thought was funny about this movie? That for this big, bad, bloody action movie, there was an awful lot of dating. I thought that was really cute. Now, as for the tournament overall, while some of the fights are shortened, the sheer number of matchups makes up for that. I mean, that was really cool. I mean, we go through the fights very quickly, but I just had a good time again seeing each character. That was really great. Although, I have to say, it seemed to me that the Netherrealm team had a distinct advantage over the Earthrealm team. I was like, so the Netherrealm fighters seem to have mystical powers, and they're fighting combatants who don't? I mean, Johnny Cage seemed to exhibit some powers. He did it like towards the end, but then I was like, where did those come from? So, I don't know, it didn't totally feel like a fair fight every time, but I guess that's good. I was emotionally invested. And the stakes did feel very high, not just for the realms, but for the characters who were fighting. I don't want to give anything away or too much away, but Raiden in particular, I liked what they did with Raiden here. He gave me the feels! And I think that Liu Kang also, speaking of respecting the OG characters, and, a lot of us felt that Liu Kang was unnecessarily sidelined in the new live-action movie for a new character that no one cares about and didn't work out. While here, Liu Kang gets also the respect that he deserves. Although, again, it's the movie, they're doing so much in this movie. Again, that's another reason maybe I think I was like, can we do an animated series? Because I was like, let's slow down and address each of these things individually, because I'm interested in them. Because they touch on his origin at the beginning, but then they seem to drop it. I mean, it led to a few touching moments here and there, but I think, I still feel I have a lot, again, I feel I have a lot of unanswered questions about Liu Kang. Outside of the tournament, and there's that's it, there's A and B storylines. So there's a lot going on outside the tournament. And I thought there was a lot of fun stuff. I thought the Mortal Kombat cybernetic ninjas were fantastic. I loved the sound effects when they moved. I was like, oh, let's get some Terminator action in here. That's awesome. Of course, Terminator himself has shown up in Mortal Kombat in the games. But I liked that. That also even reminded me of like a standalone animated series episode. And then a Scorpion and Cao Ling reluctant team up, the latter, of course, being Sub-Zero, Bihan's brother, who was killed, and so his brother takes up the mantle of Sub-Zero, and I'm kind of familiar with all that, but I was like, oh, okay, well, I would like to see that too, maybe. But their reluctant team up was a lot of fun. I was like, look, Scorpion and Sub-Zero working together. That was fun. I thought it was really well done. The fight scenes are all excellent. I would say, to be honest with you, the first 15 minutes of this movie are a little wonky. Like, they have the origin of Liu Kang, and that goes in, and that doesn't go anywhere. So I wasn't quite sure how the movie was going to go. But then, although it's funny to see characters that were so great in the live action movie here and who I never cared about before, and suddenly I'm like, oh yeah, I love that guy in the movie. So that's interesting. I think Mortal Kombat goes beyond the games. It's interesting to see how people enter the fandom and the responses that we have. But anyway, once the movie found its groove, I think with mostly the fight scenes, because it's mostly an action-based movie, then it started to really click. The fight choreography is excellent. The animation, the way it's depicted, is really well done. And again, as I said, the stakes. And the fights are extremely violent. Like, wow. Very much in the style of the game, but I do think it's a bit of a hurdle in this movie, this animated movie, is to bringing in new outside members. Like if you're trying to introduce somebody to Mortal Kombat, I don't know if this is the movie. I don't know. I'm torn on it. I think on the one hand, it introduces so many cool elements that you're like, I want to know more about that. But in some, it's also so violent that I think some people might be like, I think you should just be like, that's what the game's like. So it's being very, very, very loyal to the game. Because Battle of the Realms is incredibly on brand, and the Mortal Kombat fandom is so big, that might be enough. I mean, I think there's something to be said for pleasing the core fandom. I think Mortal Kombat fans are really, really, really gonna like this. Now, as for myself, I still do feel like a Mortal Kombat tourist. I still feel that way, even though I've been covering Mortal Kombat for a little bit now. So that's, again, why I like the idea of an animated series. I'm like, let's do this. I don't want to do any more stops and starts. And I know that, of course, you can learn it from playing the games, but I feel like I like that Warner Brothers is expanding Mortal Kombat as a story brand. So, I'm like, okay, let's tell the story. I'm ready. I feel I'm in a good place for that. And I'm curious how you feel. Now, as I said, I'm starting to piece things together. I got a lot of the references here. But yeah, that's what I'd like to see next. And I'm curious, what would you like next? Would you like to see another Mortal Kombat animated movie? Would you like the idea of an animated series? What do you think of Mortal Kombat, how it's evolving beyond the games? What do you want to see happen next? And of course, I still want lots of fighting. I think the fighting is really great. As for the voice cast, Joel McHale continues to be a fantastic Johnny Cage. And I love Johnny Cage. The Hollywood angle, he's my favorite character. But to me, Michaela's the only one who stands out in the group. Everyone else is fine, but there aren't any standouts. But I feel, and I don't know, as of now, the roles, I don't think any other roles are written to be standouts. But let's get Melina right, and that would be a great opportunity for a voice actress. I think that could be really cool. So that's my review of Battle of the Realms, which hits both digital PVOD and physical copies available tomorrow, Tuesday, August 31st. I think Mortal Kombat fans, I suspect, will be over the moon with this. I think it's really going to please them. I think they're going to be very happy. And I think that the movie's well done enough that casual Mortal Kombat fans and just genre fans overall will also have a really good time. But Battle of the Realms does hit the ground running to such a degree that I think this is not a good entry point for newbies. Although I think if you watch Scorpion's Revenge, which is a good entry point for newbies, you could then go to this. I think if you've watched Scorpion's Revenge, the new Mortal Kombat movie, then you would be ready for this. So you don't have to do too much work to get in there, to get ready. So that's my review. Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.